Okay, so I'm just trying to see how we're doing here. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Hi, everybody. So we got interrupted. So this is kind of funny because I'm talking about the upside of crisis. So we're in part two. So I'm just going to kind of continue where I left off. We're talking about the upside of crisis. And truly, we are in crisis, aren't we? We are in crisis. And it's a global crisis. You know, humanity, let's get some context. Let's pan out a little bit historically and pan out a little bit in the human experience. Humanity's always had some sort of crisis. It's very rare where we have not had crisis. You know, we really do live in a fallen world, ding to dang dang. And, you know, some have felt like if I just control enough and just do enough and just part of this and just get here, I'm just not going to have any problems. And that really is not scriptural. You know, a prosperity gospel that says you're not going to have any problems is an illusion. Jesus, who is the Word and might know, said, in this world you will have tribulation, right? You will have tribulation. Yeah, Robert, thank you. But he said, cheer up, I have overcome the world. So let's unpack this for those of you just drowned. The word tribulation, this is not a namby-pamby word. And so let me give you the definition from the Merriam-Webster's. And it is distress or suffering resulting from oppression or persecution, a trying experience or a trial. Hi, Lucero. Hi, Robert. It comes from the Middle English, Old French, and Latin verb tribulare, which is related to tribulum, meaning a threshing board. A threshing board is literally where the wheat and the kernels on the wheat were literally crushed to break off the kernels of the wheat, the chaff. Okay, so it's a crushing experience. Okay, and this is what it means. So when you're feeling the weight of the whatever is oppressive, you're feeling crushed. Okay, and you know, this is not fun. You know, it's not fun, and it's understandable that it's not fun. But there's stuff that you can glean from it. You know, there's a response. And part of this, you know, Peter said, you know, don't doubt or shocked when bad things happen, when you are going through trials, because this is a part of the human experience. Yeah. And so in the midst of that, patience can have her perfect work. Now that's we don't like to have to wait. We don't like suffering. And I know it's not sexy or, you know, what we like to tell in terms of suffering, but there is suffering. You know, Jesus could have said, in this world you will suffer, but cheer up, I've overcome the world. So where because the but comes in the place of suffering. It comes in the place of trials, but suffering, but something that's happening. And let's be very clear before we point the finger and accuse God. Okay. And it is important in your heart of hearts to know where God is in the midst of your trial. And, you know, just so you know, for us personally and our family, we're going through lots of trials right now. Our trust in the Lord, because He's there, you know, right in the midst. And there's something He's bringing us out on the other end. And so in the place where you're in the process and you haven't experienced yet the overcoming, you haven't experienced the answer, you haven't experienced the blessing or whatever that is, you can experience Christ with you in the midst. And, one of the things that's really helpful in the place of going through is remembering what you've already gone through. There have been so many things in your life. If you look back and are honest and do a little reflection, the Lord can bring up to you and remind you what you've gone through that should have taken you out but didn't. So what should have taken you out but didn't? Because he brought you through. Yeah. And so he's going to bring you through this as well. Now, how we're brought through, there is an opportunity and an invitation to participate with what God is doing in the midst of the trial that will bring forth an upgrade. No one likes to suffer. No, but let me just help you. Let me just help you. In the place of your suffering and your tribulation, okay, whatever that is, there is an upgrade on the other side. But, and let me just say this, the fastest way is through. In other words, a lot of times what happens, that, we have a choice. And sometimes we choose to run. The problem is when we run from these things, we're just going around the mountain, right? So you just get it again because there's things, and I'm not saying he's sending stuff, but I am saying the work he's doing in you, that is non-negotiable. You know that? So those he called, he justified. Those he justified. Oh, I think I'm messing it up. I should probably look up that scripture. The ending point is glorified. I'm missing something in there. So nobody, basically he forgives you. He called you, he predestined you, he called you, he justified you, and now he is glorifying you. That's the order in Romans 8, right? And so the glorification process is not without pain. It's not, you don't just like, bing, okay, right? That glorification process, in some ways, there's a crushing of our ego, a crushing of what you call the flesh, but the flesh is not your evil nature. You don't have an evil nature. You're created in the image and likeness of God. How could you have an evil nature? Okay. So sin did not make you evil. Okay. But where you don't know who you are, that you're made in the image and likeness of God, as righteous and holy as his, because of his performance, not yours, you're going to do sinful things. That could be really evil. And evil is happening. Okay. Evil is happening. Racism is evil, but, murder is evil. Okay. But, destroying things and the problem is with humanity is we get hurt and then we tend to hurt. Okay. And that is a level playing ground. That is a level playing ground. And so, God is the only just judge. So in the place where, it's not, racism is not tolerable. It's not, but, looting and all that, that's not tolerable either. Okay. So how do we handle ourselves so that we don't end up biting and scraping and destroying, right? How do we handle ourselves? Because that's really what we're called to do. Because if we're being glorified, what does glorification look like? Well, it looks like an unveiling where we look like other giving love. And guess what other giving love does? Other giving love sacrifices. That's not a popular term. Suffering and sacrifice are not popular, sexy terms. We live in a microwave society and we don't like it. But the truth is, it is unavoidable. So where there is suffering and maybe a demand to sacrifice, not a demand, an invitation, I put it that way, to sacrifice, right? How do we sacrifice? That's what other giving love does. That's what parents do for their children. That's what God did for us. And that's what we're called to do for one another. And, but the thing is this, in the place of sacrifice or in the place of other giving love, you can't demand other giving love because that's called manipulation. God doesn't demand other from us. He invites us. So in the place where we're called to sacrifice, to give, and give. And so when people demand their well, you must do this. You know what? And it's no longer other giving love because you're manipulated. It's not a choice. If love is free not to be given, it's not free. If you're not, we're supposed to submit to one another in love. We are not free not to submit to one another in love. We're not free to submit. Just thought I'd. So how do we go through in the place of tribulation with an upside, where Jesus has said, "Cheer up, I have overcome the world." Let's get to that part. And let me just say this: the fastest way is through. So there may be something that in the place where we're going through tribulation that needs to be removed from us. Ways of being and things that have, when the brain is crushed, literally behind, but the choice part is revealed. And so sometimes God will use that in order to unveil us, because the veils need to go. The ways of being that are not like other giving love need to go. God is a consuming fire. That's love. And we love that where it feels good. In the place where love is saying, I need to burn up this thing that's not of love's kind. So I'll use for, just very timely, this place of, racism and things like that, white privilege, all of that. That needs to be burned up. It's ugly. It's not of love's kind. That needs to be burned up. And so we need to be willing to say, Lord, burn it up. Help me. Whatever this looks like, we need to be operating in humility. But one thing I did want to bring out to encourage you, word crisis. I love this juicy bit of revelation. The word crisis is in the Chinese character. It uses actually two characters in it to make the word crisis. One is danger. We're all feeling that, okay, right? But the other word is opportunity. So there's something in the middle of the crisis that's an opportunity. And God is inviting to give us eyes to see what's the opportunity. What's the opportunity that we can be upgraded into a greater version of love's kind, right? So that we can be revealed, so that upgrades can happen. A lot of people lost their jobs, and I know we're having issues with threats of that as well in our family. And so, how can we use that as an upgrade? Is God going to take it? Absolutely. But there is a time where you're going through. And so as we embrace that and cooperate with it, so a good question to ask the Lord is, what are you working in me? Now understand, this is where we get hung up with religion, where God feels like a punisher, like he's cold and calculating and like, go eat rocks for a bit or something, you know what I mean? Discipline was never meant to be a punishment. So if you see God as punisher, you're going to have to back up, because you're seeing him wrong, because God is love, and love is not punished, but he will discipline. And discipline is more about teaching. See, there are things, if we think we know it all, okay, we're arrogant and prideful and unteachable, and that's not lovely. But when we come with humility and just assume that, there's stuff I don't know, I need to be upgraded, help me, Jesus, okay, then we can be upgraded. We can be conformed into the image of Christ. And then also we can experience more freedom. And I think a lot of this shaking too shakes us off in the places where we have been dependent on things that maybe have not been God, right? And that's actually really an idol. There's no condemnation in it, but idols are not good for us. There is an upgrade on the other side of that. So in the midst of the crisis, right, how can we conduct ourselves so that in the crisis we can take advantage of opportunity? This is an opportunity for us to grow. And growth is the nice thing about growth is that it's pain. The not nice thing is that it's painful. But the nice thing about it is that it yields fruit far past the temporary pain, right? Paul said these light and momentary troubles are working for us. So how now the perspective is light and is light. Okay, this does not feel light, and I feel light, right? But in the place in the midst of eternity, it's light, and in the midst of eternity, it's definitely temporary, right? And how can we make them work for us? See, the tragedy would be to have the pain without the upgrade. So listen, if you're going to have pain, which you will, what's the gain for your pain, right? What's the gain on the other side? In this world, you will have tribulation. Cheer up. I have overcome the world, right? And so in our cooperation and partnering with God and what he's doing in us and through us and in our lives, we can engage with God and ask the Lord, what's my part? What am I supposed to be learning in the midst of this? And sometimes, seriously, it's just an upgrade in your ability to trust, right? Because you realize that everything else that you had your trust in, well, that's shaky, okay? But man, I'm trusting in you. That's being rooted and grounded in love. And love ultimately never fails. Anyway, I've got to go. I hope this has been a blessing for you to do today. Share this with someone who needs it. And listen, if you are needing some help hearing from God, let me put this over here. Okay, there we go. It's reversed. So, all right, it puts a shadow on my face, but that's okay because the main spotlight is How to Hear from God. This is a book that I wrote to help you connect with God. What's your upgrade and how do I handle myself in the midst of crises? What's my upgrade, right? So I'm going to be posting a link where you can download this for free. It's a 70-page book. So it's not, it's not like nothing. It's not a leaflet. This hard copy is available on Amazon. It doesn't have this stripe, but this is actually a proof copy. And this will help you with your upgrade and being upgraded to a more beautiful you that looks more like the image of God. So here this is. I hope you enjoy. Take advantage of that. It's free. Okay. And let's see. I'm trying to get caught up with my messages. Yes. Anyway, so I've got to go, but I hope you enjoy your day. I hope you allow the Lord to unveil you. You're beautiful. You're breathtaking. We will all get through this and we'll come out with a lovelier version of ourselves. And then hopefully as a lovely version of ourselves in society, we'll come up with an upgraded society. Yeah. Love that. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.